All right, everybody, welcome back to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse Team at Remax Results. Guys, this is episode 10, so kind of a milestone. I think
That's right.
kudos to us for hanging in there through 10 episodes. All we got to do is about 90 more, and then I think we'll break through and be on the Joe Rogan podcast.
That's right.
But yes,
That's right.
that's the plan. We'll see how that goes.
We're gonna make it big.
Folks, I'm Nic Wyse, joined, of course, by my incredible teammates, Nathan Schwartz and Brianna Gilbert. Today, we are going to be diving into a big topic. It's not the sexiest topic, new legislation and housing policies that will impact homeowners in 2025 and beyond. So if you're a buyer, seller, or investor, this is an episode that you probably want to get into. So let's go ahead and get started.
That's right. So legislative changes can feel overwhelming, but understanding them can help you stay ahead of the real estate market.
Right, and from housing shortages to new taxes, there's a lot happening at both the state and national levels. So let's jump into it.
Yeah. So Nic, I guess let's start with the big one. What are legislative branches, both at the state and national levels, doing to address inventory and housing shortages?
Yeah, so believe me, they are interested in all times at housing. Housing is obviously one of the leading indicators of how the overall economy is doing. So our legislators frequently will reach out, and they certainly invite us to reach out as well. They want to hear what's going on. They want to hear what their constituents are feeling, what they're experiencing. So I can assure you, having had the honor to work with legislators on the state level and on the national level, we have their ear. They want to know what's going on with all of us, not as far as just realtors, but what's going on with the people that are actually buying and selling homes. It is a super critical issue. One of my favorite topics, I guess one of my favorite proposed pieces of legislation is called the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. It was actually proposed in 2023, but as we know, the wheels of legislation can move very slowly. So here we are, in a new session of Congress. The legislation had to be reintroduced, in part because the original proposers of this legislation have changed their positions, which means somebody else has to kind of take the mantle and run with it. So basically, this is a federal proposal. So this would be federal legislation. The real aim of the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act would be to increase the amount of homes that are getting renovated or even flipped in what we would consider to be more blighted areas. So here in Elkhart County, we've certainly got some areas that would be considered blighted, which would be most of downtown Elkhart, some sections of Goshen. Not so much in the countryside, because again, this is areas where it's not economically reasonable to flip a home and expect to create a good return on it. Just for example, like let's say you can pick up a home we'll pick on Elkhart, pick up a home in downtown Elkhart for $90,000. You think when it's done and flipped and renovated, you can sell it for $150,000. However, you've got to put $40,000 into that home. So now you've got a profit margin of $20,000. Maybe that's enough to go ahead and flip it and make that money. I wouldn't hate $20,000. But you're going to get taxed on that. You're going to get hit with a pretty short-term capital gains tax, maybe as high as 35%. So now we're taking that $20,000 and it's looking more like $12,000. And for somebody to go ahead and invest 2 months of their time, it's just really restrictive. So what this legislation would do is create a tax credit back to the person doing that renovation. So instead of them paying that 35% tax, if they turn around and sell that flipped home to an owner occupant, they would, proposed would be to maybe just eliminate that 35% or drastically reduce it. So now maybe it is worth, their time. If they can make $10,000 a month on average from doing this, yeah, that's good income. And they would certainly be interested in doing that. So that's part one of it. Part two is actually to increase the ability and give a tax credit to homeowners themselves who are living in these areas to spend money to increase the value of their home. That's a side that I haven't delved a ton into, because when I'm working with legislators, obviously I'm coming at it from a realtor's perspective. So as far as homeowners doing that, it's a great thing. It's a good thing. It builds up these communities. But the part that really gets me excited is the opportunity to increase owner occupancy. We know from a multitude of studies that when you increase the amount of people in a neighborhood that own their home as opposed to a neighborhood of renters, the incidences of crime go drastically down. The instances of volunteerism, which is people volunteering on like a homeowners association or neighborhood improvements, that goes way up. Students' test scores go way up. I think largely because they have the stability of, hey, this is our home. And obviously on the other side of that, the parents are reinvesting in that home. They want to maintain that home. It's not the situation, well, we didn't change the furnace filter for 2 years because who cares? They're going to change it every month because it's their furnace. So they're going to upkeep that home a lot better. It just, everything improves when you improve home ownership in an area. So I know that's kind of a really long answer to what you asked, Nate, but it's the piece of legislation that I get super excited about because I see it fixing things where fixing needs fixed most. That's a lot of fixing. And the really exciting thing is that it could potentially add like 500,000 new homes to the market in the next decade.
That would be sweet. And it does sound like a game changer for areas that have struggled with housing development.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's kind of that tax credit, and that's the other nice thing. We're not like, creating money out of thin air to give to people. It's a tax credit back. So there's really no loss. You know what I'm saying? The government is not having to make this money up, give it away to people to get them to do this. It's on the back end of things. So it's one of those great programs that I really like because it kind of pays for itself.
Right. No, I do like the idea of the tax credit. Incentivizes people to get that out there and actually make those homes that maybe aren't as livable, a little bit more livable. So
yeah, all about improving neighborhoods, really adding inventory, but also improving neighborhoods.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great example of using legislation to tackle inventory challenges. What about the state level efforts?
Yeah. So Elkhart County has actually been pretty tremendous in leading on a state level. Not so much, the realtors, although I think we do a fantastic job of reaching out to our legislators. I'm leaving, as you guys know, I'm leaving this week to go down to Indianapolis to do just that. We're having a legislative briefing, and then we're actually going to meet with our legislators. I will go back in March, I think, and do an additional meeting with legislators when they're actually, they're in session at that point. They're on the floor, they're making votes, and just communicating with them in regard to any proposed legislation, how we view that affecting homeowners. But one of the most impactful and successful bills that we've seen recently was House Bill 1005. Just a quick side note, when they have proposed legislation at the Indiana state level, if it's attached a low number like 1005 as opposed to 5,678, that's basically a sign of how important that legislation is and how much bipartisan support it has. So this particular bill was authored by State Representative Doug Miller, who happens to be my state representative, and I'm pretty sure both of yours now that Nate's moved. I think
that's right.
He would be your state rep as well. We've also got the wonderful Joanna King, who is a little newer, but has definitely a firm understanding, and she's wonderful. She's working hard for Hoosier homeowners. She is someone that I'm going to be meeting with actually tonight and discussing a few things with. So hopefully on the next episode, I've got a chance to catch up on some of the stuff that I'm going to be learning this week on a state level. But I digress again. The bill authorized by State Representative Doug Miller, it would incentivize local governments to partner with developers and address housing shortages by creating tax and incremental financial districts specifically for housing projects. So all that to say, basically, it allows communities to increase property tax revenues from new developments to fund infrastructure and other costs referred to housing construction. So this approach basically encourages creation of more housing by making it more affordable and easier to develop. I think is the easiest way that I can say that. Really what they're trying to do is address those shortages that we have while still involving our local governments and developers in this final solution.
Yeah, for sure. So between federal initiatives like Neighborhood Homes Investment Act and state level programs, it seems like there's a lot of momentum building to address the housing shortage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Nic, what are current upcoming legislative changes that could impact the housing market in our local area?
Yeah. So we always kind of address Elkhart County because that's our hub. Obviously, as a team, we work in multiple counties, and Brianna is now licensed in Michigan. So we could really go wide with this question, but I wanted to focus on Elkhart County just so we're not spending an hour and a half on here talking about these things. But in Elkhart County, so we're working with updates to zoning ordinances, basically trying to allow for more diverse housing types, creating a higher density development in some areas, which would be like your multifamily homes, condos, things like that we just haven't seen a lot of over the years. Basically taking the land that we've already got and trying to put more houses per square mile on that land. Obviously, that's going to make it more affordable. They're not going to be as big of houses, but we have a lot of folks right now. We don't want a 2,000 square foot house. We don't need it right now. We need a house. we need a place to live, and maybe that is a condo. We've seen that a lot more with the what do you guys call it? The millennials, I guess, or you guys are a little more Zoomers, aren't you? But whatever, the younger class of buyers, a lot of them don't want a house yet. They're coming out of apartments. They really like the sound of a condo.
Right.
They're hard workers. They're working a lot of hours, and they don't necessarily want to come home and have to maintain a yard and do all that. They're just not there yet. So the thought of condos or smaller family homes is really appetizing. One quick trivia thing for you guys, because I think we discussed it a long time ago, and I'm sure you forgot, but I think it's a curious question. How many homes do you guys think you need? And Brianna, will let you go first. How many homes do you think we need right now? If we could like magically poof, we have this many houses on the market to fill that housing shortage just in Elkhart County.
Oh boy.
I want to say I remember it being in the 50,000s.
Okay. And Nate, what do you think?
Man, like part of me wants to go higher than that, but then I'm honestly not sure. Like I'm thinking more, 65, 75, something like that. But
well, you guys, I definitely scared you when I brought it up last time because it's not that bad.
Okay.
We're at about 20,000 houses short, but the fact is we just can't develop them fast enough.
Right.
I mean, Nate, as you know, I've been working with Amzie Lehman from Lehman Construction, trying to find him lots to build on.
Yep.
And we are having a doozy every time doing that. We might have got one on the line right now, actually, which is exciting.
Sweet.
Get him, and that's just one builder trying to build one house.
Right.
We just don't have a lot of the DR Hortons and these big national home builders that come into this area and build, because the cost of building is fairly close to the same. There's a lot that goes into the cost of building for these guys. But, why come out here and build a $350,000 house when they can be out in Colorado or Utah or Idaho, which is blowing up, and build $600,000 houses for a similar cost? So it's hard to bring these guys out here that have developed huge tracts of land and build a whole bunch of houses. Although, and this is something else I want to catch up on in a different episode, we do have a developer coming to Goshen. The process is already underway. It's already approved. It is going to happen, and that is going to add a substantial amount of homes in Goshen. So hopefully we'll have an episode where we can discuss that a little bit further. It's one of our RE/MAX results agents that is leading that charge. So maybe we can even bring her on, give her a chance to have a platform to talk to people.
That'd be cool,
actually. It's really cool too. It's not just houses. It's the way they're doing it. They're really basically building a community.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might already know about, they're like, I've seen the bulldozers, because they are clearing land and getting ready to build. So anyway, we need about 20,000 more houses in Elkhart County if we could just go poof and have a magic ball.
Right. Yeah. So do you think that will have an impact on home prices?
Yeah, that's what we need, right? We need more homes. We hear it all the time. You guys are working with buyers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, we got like 2 houses to choose from. And that is a problem that's been going on for a long time. So we really need to get a more appropriate level of homes available. It should ease the rate at which home prices rise as well. Supply and demand, obviously, if we've got more supply and the demand stays consistent, that'll, even out those home price rises. We don't necessarily want to see 7% rises in home values. It's great if you already own your home, but
right.
if you buy a home, it's not so much fun. So it just gives us a chance to maybe break out of this long-term seller's market that we've really been in for like 8, 9, maybe 10 years, you could say now, that it's been in kind of a seller's market.
Right. So are there any new housing initiatives or affordable housing programs in the area?
Yeah, this is one that I've kind of only dipped my feet into a little bit. We've got what we call the Indiana Housing First Initiative. Basically, these are grants. So this is kind of money being created out of thin air in some ways, but they raise these funds in a variety of methods. I think through bond sales and some other things. Again, I need to dip more into this one. But I like it because it addresses kind of the other side of this coin. You've got a lot of folks that are out there and like, hey, we're just not in a position to buy right now. And we can't even afford rents because there simply aren't enough rental units available either. So this program essentially creates, how do I word it again? You're expanding payment assistance essentially for folks. Maybe it does work for first-time home buyers. There are programs out there that'll give them basically like a second loan when they go to buy their home. It's to use toward their down payment. And then if they stay in that home for long enough, I think it's 7 years now, they actually can get that amount eliminated. They don't have to pay that back. If they end up moving out before that 7-year term is up, they do. So it's a win-win thing. It gets more people in homes, but it also gives some incentive to developers to create more rental units, more of those multifamily units, just so we can, again, maintain affordability, get people in a home, even if it's not their own home yet. At least they can be somewhere where they're comfortable and they're not upside down on their monthly payments.
Yeah, great news for first-time home buyers, especially with rising home prices. Maybe you mentioned a little bit, but are these programs easy to access, or is it mostly just for first-time home buyers, or is it like income type of thing, or?
Yeah. So it's definitely income based, to qualify for these things. And there are a handful of lenders, even in this area, that do that. So if you're listening right now and this is something that you think would interest you, like, hey, yeah, I could use some help. I've got my credit up, but it's that down payment that I'm struggling with. Let us know, and we would be very happy to put you in touch with some of our local lenders that cover these programs. I see it. I see it frequently. It's certainly not every other transaction, but maybe one out of every 15 or so right now. I think one of the issues is there is a finite amount of grants that are available for this, and so when it's gone kind of a thing, and it goes pretty quickly. Obviously, the lenders that know about this, that are using it, they hit it pretty hard, and then that money's dried up for the time, and until it's available again, it's gone. So definitely, if that's something you're interested in, get pre-approved now. We say that all the time, don't we, guys? And we're always telling people, just get pre-approved. And they're like, I don't want to. It sounds hard. It's not. It's pretty easy to get that process started. You can even do it on your phone these days. Fill out a quick, easy application on your phone. So yeah, I would say your first step, reach out to us. We'll start pointing you in the right directions.
Yeah. So are there any laws or proposals addressing taxes for home sales or investment properties?
Yeah. So here's where I want to just nerd out big time, because everybody loves talking about taxes and tax law. I remember taking tax law at Manchester College, now university, and thinking wow, I never ever want to do this again, because it is the most complicated. That's enough. Okay, tax law is complicated. One of the things, though, that was a huge discussion item. I was out in Washington, D.C. this last week, as you guys know. We kept hearing over and over again the need to increase capital gains exemption thresholds. So this is basically when people go to sell their home, if the value of their home has increased by a margin of, say you're an individual selling your home and your net is going to be more than $250,000 on that, you're going to get hit. Even though it's your primary, you're going to get hit with the capital gains tax. That is prohibitive, obviously. If you're a married couple, that amount is increased to $500,000. And we can sit here and say oh, well, that doesn't affect anyone around here. It absolutely does. There are a lot of homes that have increased in that value. I mean, I can tell you when I started in real estate, which was just 15 years ago, you could buy a home for $30,000. I sold some of them. And those homes have increased dramatically in that time. So the biggest issue here is obviously in areas, out west and some of on the East Coast too, of course. Down in Indy really struggles with this, where you've had homes that have been in the same family, they've lived there for 30 years, and now their home has increased in value such that if they sell it, they're going to hit with this massive gains tax, so they just don't sell it. So once again, decreasing inventory. And to me, the most stark example of why this needs change, why it needs change now, is the fact that it hasn't been changed since 1998. So that was way before I got into real estate, and I've seen tremendous growth in my time. So you're looking at people that have been in these homes for that long, and you've never increased this exemption amount. It's just not realistic. And in a lot of cases, the value of homes has tripled in that amount of time. So if we don't increase this threshold, we're not allowing these homes to come on the market. We're still penalizing ourselves in the broader market, and we're not easing these. We're not easing these inventory constraints that we've had for so long now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If people aren't penalized as heavily for selling, they're more likely to put their homes on the market, which helps everyone. So
yeah,
right. It's a very practical solution to help alleviate housing shortages while supporting property owners.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. We're right about at our 20 minutes, which is where we like to stay. There is so much more that I could discuss with you guys and that I would like to discuss, but I don't want to bore everybody to tears. If you made it this long, kudos to you. Congratulations. But if anybody out there listening has questions, just reach out to us. Reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about this more. I'd be happy to have you talk to our legislators. They want to hear from you. I assure you that. A recent poll asked legislators on the federal level and on the state level, what is the number one thing that you're concerned with about? And it's hearing from my constituents and understanding their needs and their wants. Number one thing, more than anything else. You can sit there and say, all they want to do is get reelected. Man, they're too busy to constantly worry about that. They've got other people trying to get them reelected. They are concerned. They want to know how things are. I know it's hard to believe. Everybody wants to hate the government, but the more I deal with these people, the more I realize they're pretty much just us. They're just like everybody else. They just, wear a bigger hat. but they're trying to help, guys. So don't hate your government. Let them work for you. Reach out to them, be cordial, and they will want to work with you. So you can always start with us, and I'll try and connect you. So anyway, I'm always going off of our topics that we have on here. I apologize, guys.
You're all good.
But yeah, we've got some cool stuff coming down the pipe. So hopefully we'll get you some more updates. Again, when I meet with Representatives Miller and King and some of the other folks down at the State House, hopefully I can get you guys some more information coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah. And if you're planning to buy, sell, or invest in 2025, now's the time to understand how these changes could impact you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And remember that we're here to help you navigate it all, whether it's understanding new tax laws or finding the perfect property, we've got you covered.
All right. Good stuff, guys. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Realty Rundown from the Nic Wyse Team. Be sure to subscribe. As always, you can follow us on social media. Share this episode with anybody who's interested. We are now on Spotify as well, so get us where you want us. Our podcast is out there for you. As always, Nick knows, Wise replies, and we'll see you next time.